So I was reading a Substack recently and I noticed that you were a guest author on one of the posts, and it was about a topic called the proactive training model, PTM. Can you expand on that? What does that mean?
Yeah, so this is a short essay that I wrote for Chris Wojcik's Grappler's Diary, and maybe somebody reposted it over there. I'm not sure, but yeah, so this is a compilation of my all of my fundamental knowledge about ADCC into a training methodology for athletes who are looking to improve their ADCC game. And so I call it the proactive training model because when you train for ADCC, you should take a proactive approach to the outcome at the end of the match. You never want to go into a match and think to yourself, like, not have a plan or think like, oh yeah, I'm just going to submit this guy. We need to be thinking about every possible thing that could happen along the way. And then the overall goal is to develop a game that gives you the most consistent results. And what I mean by the most consistent is not beats the most people, right? Like maybe if you had an insane submission game, you could Landon Elmore submits Keith Krikorian, right? But if Landon is not like this, but assume for the sake of argument, if Landon is only able to leg lock people and he runs into somebody that he can't leg lock, so take any of his PGF matches that he didn't finish with submission as an example. Now he's not able to win the match. In the case of ADCC, this could end up making you lose by points or decision. And so the overall philosophy is like this. Nobody currently is training to win decisions in ADCC. I see decision wins in ADCC the same way that I imagine John Donaher saw leg locks in 2015. There are extremely easy things that you can do to win a decision in ADCC that nobody is doing right now. And in my training program, I won't go into like the specifics for the training program. You have to have me out for a seminar to get those. But there's really easy things that you can do to win the decision. But if our goal is to win the decision, we have to get there first. So there's some steps along the way. Just a quick aside before I come back to this. If you want to have a consistent way to win, if you know that you're better at winning decisions than everyone else and you can force the match into a decision, you will beat everybody in the world, especially if they don't know how to win a decision or they aren't thinking about the decision win from the beginning. Okay, so now let's get back to the first step. So if you want to win a decision, but you don't get to the decision, then you can't win the match, obviously, right? And so what's the quickest way that you could lose a match in the ADCC rules? You got submitted. You got submitted. Okay, you go out, you get heel hooked in 10 seconds. So the easiest way you can lose a match in ADCC is you get submitted. It doesn't matter how hard you work to initiate action, how many points you score. If you get submitted, you lose. And so this is the first pillar of the proactive training model is submission defense. And I have a great example of this from an athlete who trains with me. His name's Nassif McPherson. He has gotten silver in the advanced division at the Dallas Open a year ago, which was one of the largest opens ever that we ever had, only losing to our teammate Davis Asari. Nassif absolutely dominated this guy. His name is Cooper. He's a friend of mine, so I'm sure that I've already talked to him about this. He won't mind if I mention that he did get dominated because
Put them on blast.
that's indeed what happened. Yeah, he doesn't mind if I put him on blast, I'm sure. So Nassif, took him down, passed his guard a billion times. Nassif took his back, and he used a rescoring tactic from the back where you take a hook out and put it back in to score 9 points. Once you're up by 9 points, I've never seen anybody come back from a 9 point deficit. So now you're up by 9 points. The only way you can lose is by submission. His opponent Cooper escapes the back, gets mounted by Nassif, kips out, and heel hooks him in the last 10 seconds. Nassif loses by
Wow.
submission. So
Wow.
this is the single most important pillar to the proactive training model, which is can you defend all of the submissions that are coming your way? And
Submission defense. Okay.
right,
Yeah.
submission defense. And the cool thing is that if you wanted to consult the proactive training model to build your kids program, or maybe you have a competitive adult program, whatever, the cool thing is that like the only way to teach submission defense is to have people who are good at submission offense. So your submission defense and submission offense games go up. I wouldn't say that they go up like equally because you're focusing on submission defense, but your people are going to be really good at submitting people if all of their training partners are really good at defending submissions. And this is
Hmm.
one thing, one kind of idea that in general that I got from John. He talks about being good at positional escapes first, and then work on your submission defense, and then build your offensive game, right? So this is the fundamental pillar, and I spend so much time on it because it is so important. You can do everything right, but if you get submitted, you still lose. And this is super obvious, but I think it's really important to point out. The next layer, let's say now your submission defense is so good that even Gordon Ryan is not going to submit you, right? Just for sake of argument, right? Probably Gordon
Right.
Ryan will still submit you, but okay. So your submission defense is insanely good. Now, it doesn't matter how much you initiate or how many points you score. If you get outscored, you still lose, right?
Right.
And so the next layer is if we want to have the most consistent results, we want to take everything to decision because we know that we can beat everybody in the decision, right? And so we're basically putting them in our world. And if we can't outscore somebody or at least keep the score equal, then we're going to lose by points. And so the next layer is points defense. And this is where an intimate knowledge of the rule of ADCC rules comes in. You have to know exactly how to prevent pass points, prevent takedown points, prevent the back points, and the knee on belly points, the mount points, and the sweep points, and all of that stuff, right? You have to know how to do all of it. And there's some really cool, specific techniques that I like to teach to accomplish some of this stuff. So like I said, I've compiled the techniques that work for ADCC from wrestling and all these different things, right? And so, like one example is if you get your guard passed, it's one thing to get it passed, and it's another thing to get pinned, right? And so you can't just give up when you get your guard passed, because now if you put your back flat on the mat, you're conceding the position, you're giving
Mm-hmm.
them the pin, and now they're going to score points. And so
Mm-hmm.
you have to have a good ability to get your back off the mat. And there's a limp arm technique that I like to teach where you're barely on your side and you're about to get scored on, and you can put your arm behind your back and kind of limp it out.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of hard to demonstrate. And oftentimes when I do demonstrate, people still think that it's a fake move, but I promise it works. Um, I mean, it's where I've seen it work at the absolute highest level for wrestling to escape a pin. And if those wrestlers are escaping wrestlers' pins, you can definitely escape a jiu-jitsu guy's pin. So, anyways, the point is that there's specific techniques that you should implement in order to accomplish this goal of being first unsubmittable and then unscore-onable. Not really a good word, and I haven't found a good word for it. But yeah, so you can't be submitted, you can't be scored on. Okay, now you've played all these games that I like to do to learn how to prevent points, and you're not getting submitted. So everybody's going to decision. How do we win the decision? Well, we win the decision by initiating action. And when I judge, I very rarely write down more than maybe an initiation a minute. So if you can initiate one a minute, it's probably going to be fairly effective. And now it's super important to know how to initiate. And then the second most important thing is to have insane cardio. So if the goal of ADCC is to see you push the action the entire match, you need to have the cardio to do that. Okay. And so there's some cool strategies that we can do where you can use a shoot to pull to force an initiation. So the shot counts as the initiation, but then the pull allows you to go to bottom, you stand back up, and you repeat the system. I've mentioned this, I don't know, at every seminar that I've taught, probably. Right. Okay. So now we know how to win decisions. And the next problem that arises, so we're taking everybody, or we have like a really good gas tank. We're not able to be submitted. Nobody can score on us, and we win all the decisions. But the problem is that every single one of your matches is going to be 9 minutes long, and that is an absurd amount of time to spend on the mat. If you have a
Mm-hmm.
256-man bracket, you're going to spend 8 rounds times 9, like what is that, 72 minutes mat time over the course of the entire weekend for trials. And that is too much. I don't know of anybody that can spend over an hour redlining for 2 days. And maybe there are people that can, but it's very difficult. So the next step is we want to manage fatigue. And the way that we manage fatigue is by ending matches earlier. So we kind of go in the opposite direction. The fastest way to lose is by submission, and the second way to lose is by points. So the second best way that you can speed up a match and guarantee your victory is by scoring points. And so now you need to know how to score points. You need to know how to use a split leg Turk, an arm Turk, or a Navy ride to keep people down when you take them down. Or you need to know how to use, I've developed a pinning system I've gotten from folk style wrestling, but it comes from a move that I haven't really seen anyone teach. So I call it the ref drag. I think it's a cool name.
Cool.
So I've kind of coined that term, and I teach that. And so you need to learn how to score points in all of these ways. And then it's not only enough to score points, but to rescore points, because if you can get up to that 9 point threshold, you don't have to worry about anything besides getting submitted anymore. You can stall as much as you want. No judge is ever going to give you 9 negative points.
Yeah.
They would not be so happy if that I'm telling you that you're allowed to stall. But tactically speaking, this is something that's allowed within the rule set. And if they implemented some like you can only get 3 stalling calls rule in the future, I would give you different advice. But the point is that when you score 9 points, it's super hard to beat you. Say you're on the back, they escape the back. Say they sweep you, they pass your guard. Now they have 5 points. Now they have to go knee on belly. They score 7 and mount. They score 2. And all of this they had to do in the leftover time from the 3 minute period that you scored all of your 9 points in, which probably already took a minute and a half or 2 minutes. So it's going to be very difficult to do, especially if you know that all you have to do is not get scored on to win, right?
Mhm.
So that's the next step is scoring points. Now you're ending matches 3 minutes earlier, or at least there's no subjectivity in the judge's mind for the decision. Maybe you're doing as best as you can to win the decision, but the other guy is as well. He's a game opponent. He knows what he's doing. And now the decision is a lot closer. And so now you want to guarantee that you're going to win the match. And so you do that by scoring points. And then the final step is, cherry on top. The thing that I would personally focus on the least is submission offense. And I think that Danaher would probably be screaming at me right now if he heard me say this, because his whole philosophy is control that leads to submission. And I think that if you're not preparing for a specific rule set, this is the best way to go. If you just have a gym, you want to teach people control that leads to submission because it is the most versatile. But if you're an athlete that's specifically training for ADCC, then the value of submissions becomes a utility, a cherry on top, a nice thing to have. If you
Mhm.
submit somebody, this is a useful tool that allows you to manage fatigue. You come out in the first couple rounds of trials and you have, a couple lower level guys and you're able to submit them in the first couple minutes. Not only does it guarantee your victory, but it shortens the match. And so that's the utility that submission attacks have in my training philosophy, the proactive training model. And there's a ton of specific strategies that I go over. I have like a 25-page long series of short essays that I've written. So that one that you saw online was probably maybe like a page. So I haven't quite figured out what I want to do with it. I think I might release it at some point. Maybe I'll release it as a series of videos on Instagram or YouTube. But that's the idea. And so that's like a very broad overview. This is like my magnum opus, basically. This is, I think, going to be my contribution to the competitive side of jiu-jitsu. Now, what I'm contributing to the reffing side will maybe continue going, but I think that this is a theory that I have, and we're currently testing it in one gym. My friend Sebastian Attard is running the proactive training model in grappling education, and he's constantly sending me questions, videos, and all that stuff, asking me about the rules. So if anyone else is interested in using the proactive training model, I can send you the series of essays. Understand right now it's still a draft. I haven't fully fleshed out everything, but you can get some really good ideas from it, and I can help guide you through what you might want to do. Or if you want to have me come out for, a camp or something, I could teach the proactive training model for an entire week. If whatever you're interested in consulting with me on that kind of thing, I'm totally open to doing all that stuff.